A very good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to edition 180 of the Global Weather Report, live from a windy but sunny Mark Vaughan weather here on YouTube and live from HQ in Everton, Rossshire. How is everybody doing this fine weekend? What is your weather like? Have you got a nice roast beef dinner in the oven cooking away? Let me know in the live chat below, and we'll get the usual little bit of chit chat back and forward, little shout outs, answer a few questions if I can, and then we will get into the meat and bones of what should be a pretty interesting discussion this afternoon, because we do have a lot of things going on at the moment here. While the East Pacific and the Atlantic tropical season is still to come, we do have a pretty active, well, I suppose, western portion of the Pacific, but further south, actually, across parts of to the northeast of Australia. We've got an invest area now that's affecting all the way down into the North Island of New Zealand, where we've seen some very significant impacts in recent times, and yeah, we've got a super typhoon, category 5 strength, and that is Typhoon Sinlaka or Shinlaka, that is providing some quite remarkable satellite imagery. Now, I'm trying to get into the live chat. I was in it a second ago, and it's kicked me back out. That is pretty typical. And then I can give everybody a shout out. I did notice our very own Paul James on the chat there. So I hope you're doing well this afternoon, Paul, and enjoying your weekend, my friend, so far. And yeah, we've got 10 concurrent viewers at the moment here. You know the drill. Hit that like button, share with your friends and family, and also hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We're going to be talking in a bit more detail this afternoon with regards to the developing El Nino. La Nina, I believe, is officially done now, and we have got a pretty strong westerly wind burst developing in the West Pacific that is going to drive warm water from the west to the east along the equator. We are going to start to really warm those water temperatures up. We've got a lot of warmth building subsurface waters here, so not at the surface itself. We've got, if you look down, if you look at a cross section of the sea surface temperatures of the Pacific, you've got a lot of warmth. And with these strengthening westerly wind bursts, what they do is they build the warmth subsurface waters here, so perhaps 50, 100 meters, if not slightly below that, of warming. And then what happens is that lifts up to the surface here. And then eventually what's going to happen is the atmosphere will begin to change with that warming of the sea surface within the tropical portion of the Pacific. A few light showers, but plenty of sun here, says Paul. We've got Yilin Ling tuning in. Good afternoon to yourself. And we've also got another great friend and support of the channel, Richard Trott. Good afternoon to yourself. Richard and I were doing a little back and forth chit chat a little earlier with regards to the football. It was a very eventful one at the Falkirk Stadium this afternoon. Rangers down 2-0 and eventually won 6-3, was it? I think it was 6-3. So 9 goals in it this afternoon, and Rangers regain second spot. So I'm a pretty happy man. Lindsay is working hard. She started at midday, and I was out a little earlier washing the car. Well, not washing, I was actually hoovering it and then cleaning it in the inside. It wasn't too bad, I must admit, but I'm trying to keep it as nice as possible. And yes, did a little bit of interior car cleaning earlier on. And after this live stream, despite the fact that there's a bit of a gale blowing out there, I intend to do a little bit of hill walking. We've got the local hill here at Farish. Going to wrap up and get the gear on and try and get a little bit of exercise in. So that is my intentions after today's stream. Lindsay finishes at 9:30, so we'll probably have a kind of snacky, perhaps wings and pizza type dinner. So we're no roast beef dinner for ourselves this evening with Lindsay working late this evening. So we've got, who else have we got here? So it looks as if it's just mainly Yilin Ling, Paul James and Richard on the chat this afternoon. Paul's saying Spurs have lost, so I'm happy, laugh out loud. Yeah, looks as if Tottenham's potentially on the way down, actually. And our local team here, Ross County, it looks as if they're heading into the second division in Scotland, which is pretty remarkable. They were in the top spot, top division last year, and they went into the first division, and it looks as if they're heading for the second division, which is a pretty incredible downfall. Yeah, it's raining. But that's not going to put me off. I'm going to wrap up anyway and still go out for the hill walk afterwards. But yeah, that's the rain on. Here, the sun is coming and going. But let's have a quick look actually at the current visible satellite. And you can see the beautiful little curl there. Now, if we look at this tweet here, this caught my of this system. I think it was yesterday. It really, really was looking very, very nice on visible satellite imagery, this area of low pressure. Quite a deep feature, and it has quite a lot of strong winds associated with it here. This is a tweet here back on the 11th, which was, is this today? 12th. So, yeah, 12th. So this was yesterday. Massive and majestic extratropical cyclone is sharply corkscrewing off the coast of the UK and Ireland tonight. So this was last night. At 960 millibars, the storm's core atmospheric pressure is akin to a Cat 2 or 3 hurricane. Must admit, the weather over the course of the weekend has not been as bad as I thought it would be. I thought it would have been a lot wetter and actually a lot windier as well. The winds were kind of blustery a little bit earlier, but not too bad, I must admit. And yeah, the winds are starting to pick up a little bit now, but even yesterday there wasn't really much in the way of wind here, which slightly surprised me. So let me just see here. I had no doubts that the Gers would win today, but they didn't get 7, laugh out loud. So yeah, we were talking there, and Richard was saying try and get 7 goals today, because the goal difference is actually pretty superior to what the Celtic and Hearts have got, and that's 6 goals today will certainly help if it goes down to goal difference. Windy and Shari down here in Kirkintilloch, says David Vogan. Good to see Dad. Got a nice little chit chat with him a little bit earlier, and seems to be doing well today. We've got Jeff Clark tuning in. Hi all. Hasn't been a great weekend, and Spurs lost again, unsurprisingly, going down, I'm sure. Jeff, are you a Spurs fan? You can let me know. I'd be curious to know. But yeah, certainly uncharted territory for Spurs. They've never went down. Could they go down at the end of season 25-26? That's going to be an interesting one. League One for Ross County, says Dad. We've got Richard Gray. Hi Mark. Hope you're good today. Bad weather for lambing yesterday with hail and gales on Dartmoor yesterday, but nicer today. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Richard, and I greatly appreciate your kind words, my friend, and support to the channel. We've got Adam Blunston tuning in as well. Hey all, and hey Mark, what are you thinking for regards to the summer? I'm going to be giving some thoughts with regards to that, Adam, so stay tuned, my friend, for that. We've got Richard just a few bread baskets over at work, and Richard has certainly been busy. He's always busy, but I think he's been a little bit extra busy in recent times, if I'm right in saying. We've got Kevin Barber, another great channel support and follower on the channel. So Kevin saying good afternoon, Mark, mods, and all weather lovers. Been a beautiful day here in Harwich. A nice walk along the canal in John Constable territory. Wind and brisk, but never spoilt the walk. So yeah, glad you enjoyed that, Kevin. I'm looking forward to getting up onto the hill a little bit later. Whether I regret that or not, I'm not sure, because it certainly is blowing a bit of a hoolie out there. But yeah, look at this beautiful visible satellite. Incredible stuff, isn't it? Nature can deliver some fantastic views from space. The technology that we've got at our fingertips now as well helps bring all this right to our living rooms, bedrooms, wherever you are. It's incredible now what we've got at our disposal. So let me just see here. It was lovely on Wednesday on my birthday. So happy birthday to Jeff. Hope you enjoyed your birthday, my friend. And when not working, 26.6 a Q, a date record. Certainly was an impressive one. We've been seeing some a decrease in temperature over the UK over the last day or so here after what was a pretty warm past week, especially the middle portions of the week. Up here in Scotland, it was really a kind of one-day affair. Then we've seen a change in wind direction from southerly to westerly, introducing something a little bit fresher. We've got frontal systems that have been bringing a mix of cloud as well as rain and showers and some sunshine thrown in as well. Yes, Mark, big Spurs fan. Yeah, Jeff, been a tough old season. Been a tough, apart from winning the Europa League, it's been a pretty tough run for Spurs, I must admit. Do you go to the games, Jeff? I'll be interested to know that. I'm going to try and get to that Motherwell game, which will be 2 weeks today. Lindsay and I are on holiday in early May, so we're going to be away for the finale of this epic season. So I'm hoping to try and get down to the Motherwell game in a fortnight's time. That'll be the last time I get to go down to see the mighty Rangers. You said League 2 for Ross County. Right, okay, it's the Championship, I suppose, isn't it? So we've got 18 concurrent viewers at the moment here, folks. So please hit that like button if you don't mind. So this is, like I said, the latest visible satellite imagery. If we zoom into the UK and Ireland, you can see a lot of cloud there over western mainland Europe. Big cool down actually here as well. But there's that centre of circulation up there to the west, northwest of Scotland. And we've got some pretty fast-moving clouds associated with this circulation here, rolling across Ireland as well as the UK. We've got some showers mixed in as well. Let's have a quick look at the radar here to see what precipitation we're talking about this afternoon. And yeah, it's pretty much shower activity. We've got maybe longer spells of rain in parts of the lower portion of the Hebrides, for example. But yeah, quite a pleasant day out there, and quite showery across Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland as well. And Northern England, it looks as if it's not too bad. Nice spacing and no showers. A little bit of a convective shower activity here across parts of the North Midlands, extending into Eastern England. Looks as if perhaps Richard is just to the north of this more concentrated shower activity extending from the North Midlands towards the east of England. And you can see here with a weather system over western mainland Europe here, we've got some showers across the northwest of France, thick cloud, but also some fairly heavy precip across parts of southern France, extending the southern portions of Germany, the Alps, for example, as well. Eastern Spain, some showers over the interior central region of Spain at this moment in time. Let's have a quick look then at pressure then, where it looks as if it's around 975 millibars. So pressure is up a little bit from the past 24, 36 hours or so, but you can see the squeeze in the pressure and a fairly tight gradient here. Obviously, the strongest winds are concentrated over the Hebrides, both outer and inner Hebrides, west, northwest of Scotland. It looks as if we've got the tightest squeeze in isobars, but pressure ranging between 986 at Stornoway versus 1013 along the south coast of England. Putting on the winds then, this is in kilometres per hour. And you can see here that we've got the brisk winds, nothing extreme or exceptional by any stretch. Probably Storm Dave back, was it last weekend, produced something a little bit stronger. But yeah, still gusty out there across the north of the UK. Still a little bit windy further south, especially down towards the southeast of England. We've got some gusty winds here. And then a little bit slightly less in the way of wind through parts of the Midlands, North and West Midlands, into Wales, southwestern England. It doesn't look as if it's just quite as windy as further north, of course, and windy enough across Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. So, what else is folks saying? Let me just see here. Yes, sunny here, says Richard. Rainy in Dublin, says Yelin Ling. Shar getting closer. Yeah, I can't see the bottom of that, unfortunately, Paul, to read out what you've said. But yeah, let's crack on then. Like I said, we've got the potential of El Nino, or we are going to see El Nino. There's no question about it. The big question is going to be how strong the El Nino is going to be. Do we have a strong, or do we have a super El Nino? And also the timing of that and the connection between ocean and atmosphere is going to be another aspect to consider. But what we will do is we're going to look at some of the extreme weather that we've seen over recent days across the planet. And we can then look at the El Nino and what the influence of El Nino may be. By the way, these are the current temperatures across the UK, so down in a touch across the majority of the UK and Ireland here. Bit of a big range here. We've got currently 11.6 at Altnahara, but then if you go further south, you've got only 6.2 with a wind chill of 1.8 at Loch Liscarnock. We've got 11 at 10. We've got generally quite a cool day actually across the central belt near Dad's territory. Glasgow Airport is reading 9 Celsius at the moment. We've got 10, 11 along the M8 to Edinburgh. We've got a chilly 7.7 with a 3.4 wind chill at Dromalbin in South Lanarkshire, for example. Then generally kind of 11, 12, 13 Celsius across the bulk of England. A little touch cooler across, say, mid Wales, for example, here, but we've got a little bit of elevation here. Warmest temperatures anywhere in the UK, 14, 15 in East Anglia, as can be seen here. If we put on the wind chills, then this is how it feels out there, and generally single figures across the board. Let me just show you quickly the temperatures across Europe then at the moment, and you can see here that we have got generally nothing too standard outish in terms of cool or warm, but you can see here a big drop in the temperatures across parts of Iberia compared to recent days. We've got an interesting situation there where we had a nice little area of low pressure, very, very pretty on visible satellite off the southwest coast of Portugal. That was providing some pretty big contrast. We had mid-20s in the east of Spain with mid-teens in the west of Spain with shower and breezy conditions. That extended into Morocco as well as the Canaries, Madeira, the Azores. It was a fairly unsettled situation here. At this time of the year, you can get big swings back and forth. You can get some sunshine. Those areas of low pressure move out of the way, and you can heat up pretty quickly at this time of the year. But you can see a big contrast here now across France, especially where you've got the thickest cloud, that's a system over the south of France, extending into the central areas of Europe. Big difference here. Look at this, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Celsius across a broad area of south and eastern France. Remember the temperatures were in the upper 20s, even low 30s back just a few days ago here. So this is a big drop in temperature. If we actually quickly check the temperature anomaly here, let's just quickly look back. In fact, let me just see here if I can show on Weather Bell. Let's go into the maps here. Remember to hit that like button, folks, and if you haven't already done so and you're enjoying this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You're probably sick and tired of me saying it, but yep. It would be much appreciated. This is Europe then through the first 12 days of the month. A little bit cooler across the northwest of the UK, but generally warmer than average across much of particularly England and Wales, around about average across Scotland with a slight below average in the West Highlands. Same for Ireland, slightly warmer than average along the south coast, cooler than average on the northwest. We've got very warm conditions across Iberia, so France, up into the Low Countries, and Germany, a bit of an east-west split here, cool and average across Poland, as can be seen here, but firmly warmer than average across southwest mainland Europe. But if we zoom into the past day, in terms of the temperature anomaly here, we've got this cooler than average now starting to show up here. Now, average to below average across the UK and Ireland. Warmer than average pushed further south and east over the west, southwest of Europe here, as can be seen. But if we skip back a few days here, you can see how the temperatures were very warm. Now, the UK as a whole, even back on Friday, obviously, we had the cooling average. But look at the contrast here. And this is part of, within the title I've showed you here, the big swings across Europe. And there has been a lot of fluctuation. Like, remember, this was back last weekend with Storm Dave. We had the warmth. Now, this is going back to the 3rd of April. And this just kind of emphasizes the swings in temperature depending on position of lows versus highs, etc. Wind direction obviously plays a big role at this time of the year. Let me just kind of zoom out to see if I can get a fuller view of this. So these are 1 day temperature anomaly increments. And if you just kind of focus on the UK, Ireland, and Western Europe here, we go from last weekend where we had Storm Dave. We had some cooler air initially over Scotland, but warmer across England, Wales, and Ireland. Then we had colder air moving in, very warm across much of Europe, in fact. But look at the contrast even at this point. This was early Monday of last week, 6th of April. Below average temperatures for the UK and Ireland, warm across Europe. Then up came that very warm, significant surge of warmth. Right up, it was a 1 day affair, but a couple of days, particularly so across the south and southeast of the UK. Very temporary surge of warmth for many, especially across the north. Then in come the cooler. We've got very warm across Spain, Portugal, France, Low Countries. Very chilly across eastern areas of Europe. And this is where we're at now. So you can see here this kind of big swings, and fairly typical for the month of April here, when you've got this transition, often a bumpy road at this time of the year in terms of the ups and downs in weather. So that is that. Let me just quickly show you something else. And I was going to go out of that there, but just bear with a second here. We are live, of course, so it's not perfect. It's not finely tuned, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? This kind of raw aspect is good, I must admit, because these kind of pre-recorded, uploaded videos are decent enough during the week, I think. Anyway, maybe you might disagree, but we've got the uploads during the course of the week. But at the same time, these live streams are pretty good because I quite enjoy the interaction between myself and you, the viewer. Let me just show here the temperature anomaly and see how this is looking. So this is as of 12Z today, and you can see here slightly warmer than average across the eastern side of the UK here. You've got these westerly winds here. You get a little bit of Föhn effect, especially with some sunshine aided as well. You get a little bit of a warmer temperature southeast, east, cooler further west. But look at Spain, France, and then we've got this next surge of warmer as we head towards Wednesday the 15th of April. So we continue with this swing back and forth in terms of temperature. And if we look at the 850 temperatures here, or upper 500 millibar anomaly, should I say, you can see here how this pattern is evolving. So higher pressure over the continent, lower pressure towards the north and west. There's that deep upper low as well as surface low that's affecting us at the moment here. Quite a deep system this actually for the time of the year. You can see the squeezing isobars, higher pressure to the east of that, hence why we've got warmer air. But then once this cold front associated with this system moves southeast, it introduces colder temperatures. But you can see here that we've got higher pressure then returns, forces the lows further west, if you notice here. And with high pressure generally becoming a little bit better established over Europe, we remain in this kind of warm side of the high-low couplet. and the areas of low pressure remain a little bit, they continue to get pushed back towards the Atlantic. Therefore, the general idea would be for warmer than average temperatures. Look at this here. By the time we reach the the 23rd of April, obviously a long way out, but that's a pretty decent area of high pressure. And then we've got this kind of high to the north, low to the south. Notice here that we've got quite an interesting look here by the time we reach a couple of weeks' time, which is Sunday the 26th of April. But the general emphasis being warmer than average. If we look at the temperature anomalies then and skip back and then just literally just play through this, you can see pretty clearly the trend is a warmer than average one. So look at that there. Generally emphasis being on firmly warmer than average, and this April is going to turn out to be pretty hands down warmer than average, I would say, when all is said and done. But anyway, I'm digressing as I usually do. Anybody else tune in that I'm not giving that a shout out? Not quite. So we've got 27 concurrent viewers at the moment. If you've been here from the beginning, thank you. If you're just joined in, warm welcome and thanks for watching today's live stream. Let's look at the global view in terms of the temperature anomalies through the first 12 days of the month. So let's zoom back to 100%. So this is how the month so far is looking. Helps if I get to the right chart. And this is the global view in terms of the temperature anomaly. Is it going to... There we go. So we've got a generally north-south contrast across North America, warm Alaska, warm across the majority of the lower 48, with the exception being the northern tier. It looks as if central and eastern Canada is generally colder than average. More heavy snowfall across Newfoundland. Winter does not want to give up in Newfoundland, it looks like. We've got quite a cold North Africa at the moment. We've got firmly colder than average across India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran. Much of the Middle East actually is when extending from India across the Middle East into Africa, generally cooler than average, which is quite interesting through the first 12 days of the month. If you look at Southeast Asia, East China down into Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, into Indonesia, generally warmer than average over the last 12 days. Looks as if perhaps close to average around the Philippines. Down in Australia, it looks as if it's generally warmer than average, with the exceptions of North Queensland and the southwest of Western Australia. South America, the majority warmer than average, with the exceptions being the northern portion of the continent. So parts of Peru, Venezuela, Colombia is looking kind of around about average, with a slight mix of cooler versus warmer than average. Looking at Europe then, you can see here generally the east a little bit cool, west and north of Europe generally warmer than average, as you can see. So that's that. I'm going to just kind of quickly scoot over that. So tropical cyclones, sure, East Pacific and the Atlantic has not arrived yet in terms of the season, but we have seen some very interesting activity over recent times. The Solomon Sea, for example, supported a Cat 4 system back 5 days to a week or so ago. We'll look at a video in just a second. We've got an invest area that brought some... It was a cyclone that brought some big impacts across the North Island of New Zealand. So if we quickly check this out, we're sitting on 29 minutes past 4, because I'm always kind of trying to keep it within an hour or so, and we still have a lot of things to still get through, actually. So let's have a quick look then. This is the impacts that New Zealand experienced. In fact, right, we'll look first of all, because we'll try and get it in order. We'll look first of all at the record-breaking cyclone MAILA that became a beast in the Solomon Sea, a very unusual part of the world as well, by the way. We'll look at this first, and then we'll not necessarily watch this entire video, but we'll get the gist of it, and then we'll move on. How about that?
G'day you stormers, it is the 10th of April 2026 and today we're checking in on this very odd and likely record-breaking tropical cyclone in the Solomon Sea. This is Tropical Cyclone MAILA, or MAILA, now a weakening storm looking a bit of a mess, but this has been a remarkable storm having been stuck for days in the same region. Early in April it attempted to form an eye on some occasions with little sustained success, but then on the 7th April it rapidly intensified and after doing so may have become the strongest tropical cyclone ever recorded in the Solomon Sea. This storm has been extremely hard to predict due to the compounding factors including weak steering, ocean surface cooling from the storm, the complicated geography, and maybe a lack of good observations in the region. Let's check in on it. Looking back at this amazing storm, here is a 200-hour loop that ends on the 9th of April, showing MAILA's remarkable meandering journey in the Solomon Sea, bouncing around from one bit of the sea to another, then always kind of coming back and forming an eye during the most intense periods. These strongest periods are shown in this graph. The most important line is the black one, which is the official determined intensity determined by JTWC. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center. From this we see a peak intensity at around 1800 UTC on 7th of April, which is the morning of 8th of April local time. Around this time, severe tropical cyclone MAILA peaked at Category 5 on the Australian scale, producing 10-minute sustained winds of 215 kilometers an hour and gusts of up to 295 kilometers an hour, becoming the strongest tropical cyclone in the Australian basin of the season so far. And here is what it looked like at that time as viewed by the Himawari 9 satellite. It's likely one of the strongest systems ever to develop in the Solomon Sea. On the Saffir-Simpson scale, MAILA was equivalent to a Category 4 hurricane when it was at its peak, and some have stated that it was the closest South Pacific Category 4 to the equator in recorded history. The slow, near-stationary, meandering track over several days has cooled areas of the Solomon Sea due to the strong winds upwelling and mixing colder water from deeper down, as well as from storm rainfall cooling the surface. We can begin to see this here, looking at the sea surface temperature differences from normal, from late March to 8th of April. On a larger scale, MAILA is now twinned with another tropical cyclone to the north of the equator, which is of course spinning the other way. I saved this loop yesterday before the system was named, but it is now Tropical Storm Sinlaku, and it is forecast to become a significant typhoon passing close to
system MAILA was connected with the system to the north on the other side of the equator, and obviously we've got Sinlaka now, or Sinlaka, that is now a Category 5 system. We'll look at Sinlaka in a second, but quite interesting. This is a video produced by, who is it actually? Because you need to obviously make sure and give credit. It's U-Storm, obviously on YouTube, and I thought that's really quite fascinating to see the connection here. But the reasons why MAILA is so unusual is the fact that it's so close to the equator. You tend to find there's a lot less steering, there's a lot less vorticity close to the equator, hence why we don't tend to get tropical cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons near the equator, and they don't cross over the equator either. But one spinning, so Sinlaka to the north of the equator, the other system to the south of the equator, both spinning in opposite directions because of the Coriolis effect. But I thought this was quite a fascinating thing, and I was quite looking forward to looking at this in today's live stream. I'll show you a little bit more of this video from the chap here, and then we'll look at the impacts from MAILA, or it's actually a separate system that impacted the north of New Zealand. But we'll watch another little bit of this video, and then we'll move on then.
Or over Guam on 13th of April. Between the two storms along the equator, this type of setup is associated with a band of anomalous westerly winds. These winds can generate eastward propagating waves known as Kelvin waves within the ocean that can contribute to El Nino development. The European Centre Medium Range Weather Model here shows the development of this soon-to-be Typhoon Sinlaku, and the westerly wind burst along the equator is also very clear. The islands in the path in this simulation are the Marianas Islands, with the system passing over Guam on the 13th of April. Some are saying that it could be the earliest in the year that a typhoon of this potential strength has passed Guam. I'm looking into this, but again, please leave me a comment if you have more information.
About the activity that we're seeing over the west coast of the Pacific, north of the equator, as well as to the south of the equator. This activity is helping to produce a Kelvin wave that is going to help bring on this El Nino. So very interesting connections here between the enhanced convection, the enhanced tropical cyclone activity, both sides of the equator, and the development of El Nino. It's all interconnected beautifully, and really interesting stuff, I must admit, from a global perspective. So these systems at the moment could be helping bring on the El Nino and could have, and likely will have, global implications as we progress through the rest of 2026. What about New Zealand then? Big impacts in recent days down in this part of the world. Let's have a watch and see what took place here.
This is not the storm we were preparing for yesterday. It is worse. Those were the words of Whakatane's Deputy Mayor Julie Jukes today. She warned, if you are in Ohupi, coastal Thornton or anywhere you feel unsafe, get out now after Cyclone Vaianu veered to the east. Ohupi was earlier forecasting a swell of up to 12 metres and winds up to 150 kilometres an hour, while Whakatane also copped a walloping with downed trees and smashed signs littering the main shopping area. Ava Whitworth is there now. Ava, how bad is it looking?
Well, Lisette, this usually busy, popular shopping street in Whakatane is just an example of the damage that has been done and is yet to be done as well. Winds up to 150 kilometres an hour have transformed Whakatane's main shopping street. In the battering this afternoon, trees were uprooted and strewn across the road. The wind's violence saw metal bending like plasticine. But it was Ohupi that was the main concern for civil defence this morning, on the other side of the hill. Officials had thought Vaianu would carry winds of up to 100 kilometres an hour. They upgraded that to 150. They expected 8-metre swells, then raised that figure to 12.
Potentially worse because it changed direction slightly, so it's actually more sort of hitting us straight on.
Residents of West End Ohupi were under mandatory evacuation orders yesterday, and a request was extended to the whole town today. It came too late for hundreds as high tide hit around 2 p.m.
Stay where you are because it's not safe. Don't attempt to travel. Extreme cyclone conditions may affect the roads.
Right, hang on, this is going to be wild.
question, are storms of this magnitude unusual down in New Zealand? I think I actually done a search on this, Jeff, because I wasn't entirely sure myself. But I believe there's usually one storm per year. In fact, let me just show you here. I asked Google this earlier. How often is New Zealand hit by tropical cyclones? Recent NIWA research shows that the northern portion of New Zealand is hit by an average of a little over one storm of tropical origin each year. Feels as if kind of doesn't happen that often, which kind of made me think I'm slightly surprised it's even as often as one a year. But let me just quickly show you this here video.
Now that's savvy.
This is not the storm we were preparing for yesterday.
Queenslanders spending the school holidays in Fiji have hunkered down in resorts.
Tropical system to Guam and Fiji, where they've been getting hit hard. Check this out.
In the path of a Category 3 cyclone. The storm brought flash flooding and damaging winds to islands and is now headed for another tourist destination.
Paradise pelted. No pool dips or relaxing around a resort. Cyclone Vaianu visited Fiji, hijacking holidays at Easter.
We've got to evacuate.
Saying that if you said that name a little bit quickly, you could get caught out with it. Yeah, it does sound a little bit questionable, actually, Paul. I thought that myself, my friend. And yes, Lisa's saying, where is that? So the same system that impacted New Zealand hit the Fiji Islands. So this is the same circulation that impacted the north side of New Zealand. This is what took place in Fiji. I think this was back maybe last weekend around about Easter, as they're saying. So let's watch this anyway.
Tavarua Island.
Barton Lynch is on a father and son trip.
Pretty happy we left the island and feeling safe where we're staying, so that's all good.
Katie Lowe found herself watching a Category 3 storm and her kids holed up in a beach hut.
We weren't allowed to leave our room for 24 hours. It was like Armageddon, really.
Guests couldn't go out. Arrivals couldn't get in.
Going up and down, which lots of people got sick from.
Passengers became violently ill as a Fiji Airways plane tried 3 times to land before diverting to Tonga. Several flights were cancelled.
Tropical cyclones.
Queenslander Leanne Smith was stranded for an extra night.
The wind here was incredible.
The cyclone cleared out today, now headed for New Zealand this weekend.
Which is where we're going tomorrow. So we're going to cop a cyclone twice.
It'll bring big waves to southeast beaches.
Certainly will be a danger for anyone out on the coasts on Sunday and Monday.
But will otherwise leave Australia out of its Easter trail.
Imagine that, you're in Fiji, you get hit by a tropical system, you go down to the north portion of New Zealand and you get hit by the same system. That would be pretty interesting, actually. Well, if you like bad weather and storms and whatnot, I think it would be pretty cool. If you're looking for some sunny beach weather, you would probably be sorely disappointed. Anyway, let's crack on then. So that was the busy tropical weather that we've seen affecting quite a few different places in the West Pacific. And I've already mentioned the fact that these systems and this uptick in tropical activity could be helping bring on this El Nino, and therefore we have some quite interesting things to consider. These are the current sea surface temperatures globally at the moment in terms of anomaly anyway. And you can see here that we still have a little bit of cooling average to the south of the equator over that Nino region 3.4, but notice here that it is getting swallowed up by warmer than average waters, and with this warmth now over the west portion of the West Pacific, what's going to happen is winds are going to begin to pull this anomalous warmth eastwards across the Pacific and begin to remove this cool pocket to the south of the equator. Got, like I said already, we've got a lot of warmth built up underneath the ocean surface. These westerly winds brought on by a Kelvin wave that progresses from west to east is going to then pull that warmth from subsurface to surface. And then eventually what's going to happen, my big problem that I've got with this El Nino is timing. Strength is one thing, but how quickly does the warm waters of the equatorial Pacific lock onto the atmosphere and then start to shift the global circulation? That is going to be the thing that I'm asking the question anyway. So happy we miss cyclones and hurricanes despite our heavy storm systems. Yeah, Richard, certainly our storms, we're used to it, I suppose. But from a tropical perspective, when you see the amount of damage that they cause, it must be a nightmare for these people that live United States, Caribbean, West Pacific, East Pacific, blah blah blah. It must be very, very tough going that, and obviously your insurance premiums and everything are through the roof because of it. Look at the amount of warmth actually around the UK and Ireland. That's quite interesting. Look at the Mediterranean. We've got quite a notable cold pocket across the central North Atlantic. So these are again building the ideas with regards to the summer season. Going to be looking at sea surface temperature anomalies very carefully indeed. Another perspective in terms of looking at sea surface temperature anomalies, we look at the CDAS data, which tends to look different to what that looks like. This is the current SST anomalies from the CDAS data point, and you can see that we've got the big difference, in fact, actually, because notice here that the warmth around the UK and Ireland, so it's a slightly different data set and climatology to consider. But look at how cool the equatorial portion of the Pacific, or the Atlantic, is up the eastern side of the Atlantic, from tropics to the subtropics, up into the North Atlantic. You've got quite a lot of cool over the North Atlantic, warmer further west over the Atlantic through the Caribbean, a little bit above average. In the Gulf of Mexico and to the east of Florida, we've got some pretty warm waters. We've also got the warmth now, still that slight cool pocket across the Niño region 3.4, warm against the south coast of or the South American coast, should I say. But this western portion of the Pacific, we're going to begin to see the warmth in the west versus the east swallow up that cool pocket in between, and then we'll begin to see the atmosphere eventually change. So how much influence does this El Nino have in the upcoming summer season? That's going to be the question. But what kind of impacts will we actually see? From a global perspective, again, if we do a search of strong or super El Nino during the summertime, so this is June through August, typically leads to dramatic shifts in the weather patterns characterized by extreme heat, altered rainfall, and suppressed hurricane activity in the Atlantic, because El Nino releases massive amounts of heat stored in the ocean into the atmosphere, and it often sets the stage for record-breaking global temperatures. So global temperatures and heat waves, let's have a quick look and see what it is saying. Record-breaking heat. A strong El Nino is expected to boost the average global temperature, with 2027, notice it's not saying 2026, it's saying 2027 likely to become the warmest year on record, potentially surpassing 2024. We'll wait and see what happens. But it's because of the lag effect. There's a lag effect with the atmosphere versus the ocean. Widespread heat waves, again, This doesn't necessarily mean that the UK and Ireland is going to have a blistering hot heat wave drought summer. Because of Europe, you tend to have hotter than average and a greater possibility of heat waves in Europe, but not necessarily across the UK and Ireland here. And again, the full effects of this El Nino may not come until autumn and even next winter. And what impacts is that going to have? We'll look at that in the time to come as well here. Widespread heat waves, increased frequency and intensity of heat waves are forecast across Europe, India, Africa. We're beginning to see the pre-monsoon heat build across Pakistan and India. So far in April, Middle East cooler than average. India, Pakistan is below average through the first half of April so far. So we'll wait and see if we start to see a turnaround take place. Heat waves build, like I say, Europe, India, Africa, South America, and the southern United States. That is the impacts that you tend to see from a global perspective with a strong super El Nino. Western US impact. Portions of the western United States may experience hotter than average summer temperatures and increased humidity, potentially worsening wildfire seasons in California and Oregon. Now, obviously, we've seen the heat wave across the United States. Another little reminder of this here. This is a graphic that was produced, I believe, by Jeff Berardelli about the record warmth that we're seeing. Now, we've seen a near record cold. In contrast, near record cold in many parts of Canada seen their coldest March on record. We have also seen the coldest March on record for parts of Alaska, including Fairbanks. But we also seen not only the warmest March on record for the US lower 48, but also the most extreme anomalous warmth compared to average of any month on record. And these are all the US stations that the red dots represent records for the month of March. So hottest March temperature on record for all these red dots. What's quite fascinating about this is the pink dots represent March records, but also records for April. And I think that is even more remarkable, is the fact that not only did these temperatures surpass March records, but an entire following 30 days or 31 days in April, I should know that, but broke the record for that next month. Amazing. It really was amazing. But anyway, back to the case in point. El Nino developing. What impacts in terms of Europe? In 2026, strong the super El Nino is expected, as I've already explained. Is this for the Europe viewpoint? I'm also going to stay tuned, by the way, because there's an article that was written by Severe Weather Europe, a detailed article with regards to this potential super El Nino, or at least strong El Nino, and the impacts for the upcoming summer season. I'm going to read that article to everybody in a video that will be recorded some point during this upcoming week. So I'm going to look into this El Nino in much more detail. But in terms of extreme heat, El Nino years are historically associated with exceptionally hot summers in Europe. Forecasters predict above average temperatures for most of the continental European continent, with the most intense heat relative to normal focusing on southern regions. So the Mediterranean and across the south of the continent looks as if we're going to have intense heat. Central and northern Europe, higher than average temperatures are expected to burst into central and northern parts of the continent. The mid-Atlantic influence. Western Europe may see more normal temperature trends due to a milder air mass coming off the Atlantic, though this can be punctuated by unseasonably warm spells. And what I'm kind of leaning towards here is we're going to have to watch and see the rainfall distribution across the UK, Western Europe, over the next month and a half. Do we begin to see things drying back out across parts of England, Wales, and the near continent, France, Low Countries, Spain, Portugal? We're in a pretty good state at the moment, and the reasons for that is we've seen a lot of storms, south shifted jet, particularly back half of January through February. We've seen a lot of systems going into Spain, Portugal, Canaries, Morocco, and the southern UK. So we're in good stead in terms of We don't have really any drought to speak about. But a dry upcoming month and a half may begin to re-dry out those soils, and that could have an impact in terms of the atmospheric pressure and consequentially the temperature. So I think personally, if I've had a few people asking me, what do I think this summer is going to do? Well, obviously it's not just El Nino. And also, if we do have El Nino, is the summer already been and gone by the time the effects of El Nino really kick in? So these are the questions I'm asking. What kind of rainfall do we see through spring? What kind of reaction to winds and pressure does the oceans or water surrounding the UK and Ireland have? That can have impact in terms of temperature, rainfall, etc. But I do think we're going to see back and forth this upcoming summer. There's a bit of a 2015 type feel to this upcoming summer season, which provided extreme heat. But we also seen wet days, we've seen unusually cool days, and a bit of a mixture of everything in that summer of 2015. And that was, if I'm right in saying, that was a transition year between La Nina and El Nino as well. So it's going to be quite interesting just to see how this upcoming next month or two evolves. But I certainly hope you can stick around here in the channel because I think it should be quite interesting. Let me just read a couple of comments here before we round up here. Always try and keep it around about the hour mark so that I'm not going over too much. But we've got Frogs Legs Matthew, we've got Lisa also tuning in. I don't think I've given you a shout out so far on the stream, so thank you for tuning in, folks. And better late than never. It doesn't matter whether you're late, and you can always watch back the beginning. But we've got some good wine. Kevin says Matthew. That's obviously in reference to some conversation. Trouble with Francis. Okay. I'm not going to read that out, Paul, in case I get into trouble by anybody. Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, the world's coldest capital, experiences severe continental climate changes. Winter temperatures plummet below -30, while summers regularly exceed 25, 30, even higher than that. True. Very, very continental. Obviously, it's away from any moderating influence of water, so it heats up to a significant degree during the summertime, and it cools to a significant degree in the wintertime. Canada, inland areas, particularly Winnipeg and the northern prairie provinces, experiences extreme swings as well. Continental versus a maritime climate. We're obviously very heavily influenced by the Atlantic. I know that frustrates the life out of people, especially in the wintertime when you've got the cold over Europe. The UK quite often misses out, and unfortunately that is the default of our climate. And it's kind of the same in the summertime as well. We don't get quite the same extremes as what obviously inland parts of Europe would get. I hope everybody has enjoyed today's content. I think 2015 in the UK in summer was a bit rubbish, apart from the spectacular heatwave in early July. Yep, that was very true, Jeff. Quite a very mixed summer, and I do genuinely think that you almost got me into trouble there, Paul. I genuinely do think that it could be quite a mixed summer this year, but I do think heat spikes are going to be a factor. I think we're going to see lows, we're going to see cool days, heavily influenced by the Atlantic. I think we're going to get a mixture of everything. But I hope you've enjoyed today's stream, looking at the tropics, looking at the developing El Nino, what impacts that may have locally as well as globally. More on that coming up this upcoming week. We're going to have, obviously, as always, Monday to Friday, the European outlooks. And I hope you can stick around, and we'll travel through this remainder of spring into the summer together. So be sure to like before you leave today's stream. Doesn't cost you anything, and it also doesn't cost you to hit the subscribe button as well. So please do so also. I think I've kept it within an hour, just. So have a great rest of your Sunday. Take care. Bye for now.